So why is the EU in such a desperate condition in this vaccination campaign? On top of the failure of the common vaccine purchase program, there have been some political blunders, some political mistakes, which are totally difficult to explain and to accept. 2 or 3 weeks ago, Brussels tried to prevent some doses of vaccine from passing from the Republic of Ireland, which, as you know, is part of the EU, to Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. Of course, this triggered a political feud, and at the end of the story, Mrs. von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission, was forced to apologize to Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister. Then, last week, Brussels and Rome decided to prevent some AstraZeneca doses from traveling from Italy to Australia. And this decision was welcomed by several commentators as a sort of lion's roar. But all of a sudden, the very next day, the lion's roar, or the alleged lion's roar, turned into a sheep's bleat the very next day when Brussels urged Washington to give us millions of AstraZeneca doses produced in the US. And what did the American administration answer? They answered no, of course. The Biden administration released a carefully worded statement full of kind assertion about multilateral cooperation, but the substance of the story was the American administration is going to take care of the vaccination of the Americans first. Then, only then, they will use the surplus doses for their friends and allies. And so the end of the story is that the EU is trailing in this vaccination campaign all of the non-EU countries. The time has come for an adult conversation about how Brussels hasn't been able to cope with the crisis of the last 15 years. 2008, 2010, financial crisis, and Brussels couldn't manage it properly. Then the Greek crisis, which involved, if you remember, only a tiny percentage of the European GDP. Nevertheless, also in that case, Brussels couldn't cope it properly, and the European authorities only applied expensive sticking plasters to delay a sensible solution. Then came the migration crisis, and also in this case, Brussels couldn't manage it properly. And now this vaccine fiasco with the vaccination campaign. The time has come to ask ourselves what has happened to the EU. Perhaps the whole European architecture has been designed thinking that we would always enjoy fair weather. And on the contrary, when a storm comes, we are totally naked and unable to tackle it properly. Perhaps a good idea for the European authorities would be to read once again, 33 years later, the prescient speech delivered by Mrs. Thatcher in 1988. It was the 20th of September that year in Bruges, the Bruges speech. Mrs. Thatcher explained that someone in Brussels was mixing up the means with the purposes. They made the European Union a sort of end in itself. And according to Mrs. Thatcher, and she was right from our perspective, this was a mistake. Europe shouldn't be an end in itself. Europe should be a means by which we try to deliver prosperity and security for several European countries. This might be a good subject for sensible Europhiles and sensible Eurosceptic. We should ask Brussels to do fewer things and to do them better. Thank you for now. Have a nice weekend. See you next Friday here from the UTOPIA Studios, a view from Italy. Good morning.